All right, we are continuing right where we left off. Notes for 4.1, page 3. Number 16 goes something like this. The directions are the same as for the problem we just finished. Find F composed with G, G composed with F, and then each of those four parts that are listed below. So let's begin with F composed with G. Now, for this example, the quantity 3x will be put into function f in place of the variable x. And that's it. Now we're going to go the other way. We're putting f into g. Putting all of this, which is equivalent to f, into function g right there. And that's all. All right, now we're up to part A, B, C, and D from above. Part A asks you to find f composed with g of 4. I'm going to use this result that I accumulated. Put 4 into the value x. 3 times 4 plus 1 is the square root of 13. Next, find g of f of 2. I'm going to use the next result. Part C. F of 1 means f parentheses 1. Okay, so the first time I put 1 into function f, I get square root of 2. Now I put the square root of 2 into function f again, okay? And you get the square root of 2 plus 1. And that is as far as you need to take that. Part D, g of 0. All right, so g of 0 is what I need to figure out first. G of 0. Put 0 into function g. You get 3 times 0. 3 times 0. That equals 0. Then you do it again. And you get 0. Now, I did not specify the domain for question number 12. The domain for all of my answers that I've circled up there, my domain everywhere, is all real numbers. No restrictions. But now I need to consider my domain because I am working with square roots. And I know that the quantity under the square root stays 0 or more. So, in the first two results that are in boxes, this one and this one, I need to specify the domain. Okay, so the domain for that first result, okay, you have to consider the domain of g and the domain of f of g. All right, now the domain of g is just all real numbers, no restrictions. But the domain of my answer here at the end, my domain is going to be restricted. I need to make sure that the 3x plus 1 stays at least 0, which if you take that a couple steps further, you will find out x has to be at least negative 1/3 for that to work. So that is my domain. For the next answer that I got, this answer right here, I need to consider the domain of my answer as well as my input function f. Okay, so now go back up to function f, which is here. Right, there's a restriction because function f involves the square root of x plus 1. And I want to make sure that the quantity under the square root stays at least 0, right? So take that a couple steps further, you find out that the domain is where x is at least negative 1, right? Get the x by itself. So I have to consider this to be part of my domain, as well as any restrictions, any additional restrictions I have in my answer right here. Right here. Now that also involves the square root of x plus 1. I have the same restriction as I had just a minute ago. So my domain overall is to say that x has to be greater than or equal to negative 1.